And welcome to ABC 24 This Week. I'm Richard Ransom, and we're glad you're with us for another Sunday of giving you the real story behind the week's big stories. Here's what's on the rundown for this Sunday. First up, another Wanda controversy. Was she evicted or wasn't she? It doesn't really matter because one of the clerk's most visited satellite locations, the one on Poplar Plaza, is closed, and taxpayers can't do anything about it. The last elections of the year, safe to say the Mid-South has more than its share of off-year elections. You had special elections for state rep, city elections, city runoff elections, and in Mississippi, the next governor was decided. And also today, MLGW's big plans. Shelby County's utility provider wants City Council to provide a 12% rate hike and agree to spend $34 million for a new headquarters building that's not even in the city limits. Should the council sign off on both of those proposals? We're going to get into all of that here in a minute, but first let me introduce my panel to you. ABC 24's political analyst is Otis Sanford. Susan Adler-Thorpe is a political consultant with Thorpe Communications, and Reverend Keith Norman is the pastor at First Baptist Broad. Thanks all three of you for being here. I don't even know where to start with the Wanda controversy, so I'm going to let Zaria Oates do it for us. She has this report now on kind of where things are right now.
Months behind on rent, a very important position left open, and calls for her resignation. All things raising lots of questions for Shelby County Clerk Wanda Halbert. But she insists they were not evicted from the Poplar Plaza location. Instead, they were behind on rent.
Being behind a month or two is not eviction.
But it does contribute to the problem. At least that's what the Shelby County Chief Administrative Officer tweeted on Monday. It says the clerk's office received word from the landlord on October 11th, but Clerk Halbert says she knew before then.
We knew 3 months ago.
And what was the date?
Okay, hold on. We didn't have a date. We didn't necessarily have a date then.
But you
and
knew
I
you
can't
had to be
hold
out?
on a moment.
Okay.
And I cannot get into the specifics because there have been too many meetings.
Not hesitating to blame an empty seat.
We recently lost our top finance person to another local government agency. And so we did find that they were 2 months behind.
Shelby County Commissioner Mick Wright, a longtime critic of the clerk, says his expectations are simple.
Make sure that something as simple as a rental payment continues whether or not any particular person is serving in that office.
Commissioner Wright said he's spoken with the Hamilton County District Attorney investigating the clerk's office. They're looking into her ability to keep offices open and to keep employees on the payroll, something County Mayor Lee Harris has been highly critical of.
I have not spoken to the mayor in quite some time, and he sure has a lot to say.
More questions are in the air as we wait on a response from Fernard Properties about the overdue payments, as well as a response from Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris about the county clerk's standing within the Shelby County government. In downtown Memphis, I'm Zaria Oates.
So I come away from that with several impressions. First of all, there's no love lost between Mayor Harris and Wanda Halbert, as we well know. Two, who's telling the truth here about how long the payments have not been made on this property? And three, how frustrating it must be for the car owners who just want to get their car tags. It should not take this much effort to make that happen. Otis, what is your first take on this?
Well, I think you just summed it up pretty well with all of those concerns. Yeah, there's no love lost between her and Mayor Harris and CAO
Harold Collins.
Harold Collins. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I looked at that press conference she had on Thursday. And the first thing I did was go to a dictionary and look up the definition of double talk. And the first word that jumped out at me was nonsense. And then it said, you know, deliberately evasive and ambiguous language. That's what we heard yesterday. Now, I believe that it's been more than 1 or 2 months that she's behind. I was told that. And it's her responsibility to make sure that the rent is paid. And she did not do that. It's just another in a long line of controversies that has dogged her since she got reelected in 2022.
Yeah, so we had this investigation that was commissioned by DA Steve Mulroy. He didn't want any part of it for obvious reasons, so he asked the Hamilton County DA to check into allegations of mismanagement by Wanda Halbert. That investigation, we're told, is still ongoing. We're not getting any clues as to when it might be finished or what have you. There's not much recourse, is there, for citizens of Memphis who feel that maybe she should not be in office?
Well, they can have a recall
But I don't.
Tennessee doesn't make it easy, though.
No, you have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of signatures, but if she's found by the district attorney from Chattanooga, Cody Wamp, who's in charge of this investigation, if she's found unfit for office, she can be removed from office. So, I mean, his investigation has been going on a while. I think it has just sort of slipped to a back burner. I think it's back on a jump start now. And, you know, she is behind. When she said 1 or 2 months, as Otis said, it's nonsense. She's really behind 5 to 6 months in paying her rent. Probably goes back to when the property owners notified her they needed the space for another use. She's had 5 months to find other space there. Why she hasn't found it, I don't know. And then she said yesterday that it's not her fault that it takes time to put a requisition together to pay the rent. I mean, if you have a system in place, it takes no time, because she has to notify finance with a purchase order that the rent is due on her space, and at that time, finance sends the money. But if she doesn't notify the county finance office, they're not responsible for paying her rent until she notifies them that it has to be paid. So clearly, the problem is coming from within her office. Look, I know Wanda Halbert. I like Wanda Halbert. She's a nice woman. But right now, to put it kindly, she's not firing on all cylinders. There's something going on, and we just need to get to the bottom of it, because the clerk is an extremely important office.
It is, and it's a basic, you know, it is as close a contact as most people have with government. Local government is getting their tags, you know, hopefully, if they haven't had a run-in with the law or any other contact. It's unfortunate that it's not only unpaid rent, Reverend Norman, but it's long lines in the middle of hot summer days with people in their 70s and 80s waiting to get their card tags. We can go on and on. Trips to Jamaica in the middle of huge controversies, having to shut down the office. You know all the issues. What do you think needs to be done here?
So I don't want to make it so much about Wanda as I want to make it about the citizens that are not being served. I want to talk about young boys and girls who are trying to get tags on their cars, and seniors who are trying to get tags on their cars. And personally, people like myself who stood in the line for a long time to get tags on my car or to try to use the kiosk and could not get it done. The dysfunction needs to be dealt with. And I think what we have here is an elephant fight. When elephants fight, the only thing that happens is the grass dies, because what we're dealing with right now is, you know, one branch of government, another branch of government. What we need to do is go to the commission, restrict the ability of Wanda's office to pay their own rent. We can restrict that and not have to put her out of office. The county charter gives her the ability to rent spaces outside of any county-owned building for the function of government. We need to take that over, because that means our ratings, the way we pay our bills, is not going forward in the proper manner. So the county commission can restrict that. They can take over that function and say, we're going to take care of that. Here's where your office will be, and here's how it's going to be governed. Now, we can then go to this next level. I don't think it's at a level of recall yet. And I have to say, my heart bends a little bit, because if we're honest, the person that's missing from that office is Janet Hooks, who was there to help work through some of this. And now we see this dysfunction at another level. Rest her soul.
Janet Hooks, yes, rest her soul. She was appointed to fill in the blank there for a problem. Why they haven't been able, even prior to Janet taking over, to put someone in place there to run that office who knew what they were doing. The magic of a clerk's office is that if you run, your politicians run for these row offices, and that's what makes it all.
Well, I think that's the larger issue.
It's a bigger issue.
We have all these clerks. It's a popularity contest, and said, well, are they competent at their job?
Well, it's a popularity contest, and it's a mission for some of these politicians whose offices have expired to find another place in government so they can keep their pensions. But be that as it may, there have been clerks in the past who have gone into these clerks' offices, said, I don't know what I'm doing here, but they have kept in place the veterans who have run these offices for years, and they just, some of them, I know one who just went off and played golf most of the time, but the office ran well. So look, I'm not trying to pick on Wanda, but at some point, somebody's got to say something's not quite right. And I don't think the county commission can take over that duty of paying the rent.
They can restrict the ability for an elected official to make a covenant or an agreement to lease space. And if they restrict that ability, then they bring it in-house and say all spaces are paid for by the county government.
But
so bills have to go here, and we have to get it paid.
Well, there's also, and you may be right, but there's also a bigger problem. There's money coming into her office. And that money goes into an account. If I'm not mistaken, the trustee is required every month to make a sweep of that account. So the trustee takes the money and invests it. But the trustee is supposed to disperse it to the municipalities where the people are buying these tags, okay? So, but she can't do that, the trustee can't do that unless the clerk lets the trustee know how much goes to Germantown, how much goes to Bartlett, how much goes to Arlington, how much goes to Memphis, and apparently that's not happening either.
A lot of things are not
we got
When you can't pay your bill, the receiver comes in, and you go into receivership, and they pay your bills for you, don't they? They just come in and say, we're taking over. We're not saying that you can't collect money. We're not saying you can't do your functions, but you're not operable. You're not managing. So we're going to take over this one function, and we're going to pay these bills. We're going to make sure all this is taken care of. That's it.
This is government. I'm not sure you can do that.
Let me address one point, though, that you
final
made,
word, yeah.
and that was whether we need to have these as elected officers in the first place. And I know that's a long, convoluted, drawn-out thing, but we do not. We do not need to be electing the county clerk. We do not need to be electing the assessor. We do not need to be electing the trustee. Those should be appointed positions based on merit, based on experience, based on capability, and not based on that popularity contest that you just mentioned.
But those are elected offices because the state constitution creates them as elected offices. If you're going to change that, you're going to have to open up the constitution and change it, and then that's another whole bag of worms.
I'm just saying
That's a harder measure to rise to, but we can restrict your ability to set to make separate agreements to rent space.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Reel that in.
We'll see what happens. I guarantee you we'll be talking about Wanda in the future. Let's